We like to call them tools for life, they told me. Have you ever considered using any of these tools for life? There's no shame in using something that helps you. No shame in using something that helps me? Are you kidding me? No shame? My name is Kelly Gorman, and I was born with a rare condition in my legs called arthrogryposis. Because of this, I have no muscles in my lower legs and permanently weak muscles in my upper legs and hips, and I use the aid of a forearm crutch to help me walk. When I was born, the doctors predicted that I would never be able to walk, that I would have many, many surgeries, but I would never be able to walk. However, after about 2 years, not only did I walk, but I excelled, and I continued to thrive athletically as I grew up. My official athletic career ended just after I walked on to the Division I lacrosse team here at William & Mary, one of the highest athletic accomplishments for anyone, regardless of their disability status. I prided myself in my classic triumph over tragedy story of overcoming my disability against all odds. Strength was at the core of my values and beliefs, and I tried to embody what I thought strength was in any and all aspects of my life. A classic Kelly line in high school would be that crying is a sign of weakness, and the cardinal rule is to show no weakness. Therefore, I never allowed myself to cry from physical or emotional pain. And I never showed emotions or feelings that could indicate anything less than happiness. Because this is how I defined strength growing up, this is how I thought I overcame my disability. But I never talked about the embarrassment that I felt on the first day of high school, which was also one of the first days that I walked with a forearm crutch. When I heard an older kid in the hallway yell, "Watch out, everybody, here comes the girl with the crutch." I never mentioned how mortified I was to then walk down this hall full of people that went silent and parted ways as every single person watched me walk through. I never told anyone how defeated I felt when I went to field hockey practice and an assistant coach told me that I was good for someone with polio. And on top of all that, I always felt too pathetic to admit how much pain I felt in my legs on a daily basis. I would start sweating from pain after walking up just one flight of stairs, and I felt ashamed every single time. No matter where I went, this crutch seemed to be anything that anyone saw, and the only thing that they wanted to talk about. Luckily, I learned to use humor and charm to my advantage. and connect with people in ways that I thought could distract from my disability. This led to my friends identifying a new classic Kelly quote. And that's pretty much any time I talk about how ridiculously good looking I am. And well, yeah, guys, you could stand here literally all night and still not be done. It also usually makes people laugh, and it eases that awkward anxiety that many able-bodied people feel when first interacting with me. Although I still use some of my classic Kelly quotes I developed in high school, the way that I see my disability and the way that I define strength have changed. Which brings me back to that moment I referenced at the beginning. This past summer, after enduring more and more pain throughout the past few years, I got to go out to Minnesota and be evaluated and treated by the best doctors and specialists in the country for adults living with arthrogryposis. Once there, as I walked down the hall, one physician exclaimed, "Wow, You really can walk so well. I knew that was a bad sign, that she was surprised at my mobility, but I didn't know just how bad. And then we had that conversation that changed everything. The tools for life that she was referring to were power scooters and wheelchairs. She was asking me if I ever considered using a wheelchair or power scooter because that was her recommendation for me. That was the recommendation from the most specialized, prestigious doctors in the country. As the shock, dismay, and heartbreak set in upon realizing that I had been prescribed a wheelchair, I could in no way make sense of my world. I felt hopeless and helpless, and I questioned the meaning and importance of everything. Yes, disability is something that happens naturally as people age. And people do get canes, crutches, wheelchairs, scooters, and everything else that there is out there. But as I saw it in that moment, I already had a head start down the destined gloomy path of immobility and even mortality when I got my forearm crutch. While difficult, there were still multiple other stages of more confined mobility than what I was currently at. But now, at the age of 20, were I to accept a wheelchair, what devices or milestones of advanced declining stages would be left? How much more immobile could I get beyond that point before I would just be wasting away, taking up space? Wasting away, taking up space. At the core of this is fear and insecurity. It's fear about my possible declining physical condition and eventual death, and insecurity about being worthwhile and mattering in this world. Ultimately, though, these thoughts and rationales felt so stunning and earth-shattering because they were based upon the notion that worth is tied to physical ability. The notion that love, passion, drive, community, and belonging all come back to the physical condition of one's body, which I felt like I was quickly losing. On an intellectual level, I knew this thinking was irrational, but on an emotional level, it was much harder to break free of these notions. My emotional connection to my reality began to change as I listened to Rachel Platen's song, Fight Song, on repeat, my eyes welling up with tears. The music builds as she compares the things that she kept inside to wrecking balls inside her brain. And then all of a sudden, she breaks free and lets them out in the chorus that celebrates her fight, empowerment, and excitement to take back control of her life. I connected to these emotions and thought about times that I had felt them in my own life. For example, I felt an excitement and nervous exhilaration before presenting to a student organization. I felt empowered when I met with a professor and he told me that he believed in me and that I could do anything I wanted with my life. And I felt inspiration and fight as I watched my best friend stick up for herself and bravely take back control over her own story. None of these things had anything to do with me sitting, standing, walking, or lying down. They had to do with the people I was with and the way that I was interpreting life as it unfolded. I realized that to fight and to take back my life, as Rachel Platen says, yes, takes strength, but a new definition of strength. This is where I made a change and where I sure as hell decided to fight. No longer do I define strength by the absence of weakness, but by the willingness and determination to accept and love myself and those around me unconditionally, no matter what that takes. Whatever obstacles and trials lie ahead of me now, I feel comfort and strength knowing that I will not go through them alone. Unlike my high school self that kept everything in, I have and am still continually working to change. To let people in and be open about my pain, my frustration, and even my fears regarding my future mobility. Alone, it is daunting to think about, fighting my pain in body, and eventually accepting and even embracing the aid of a wheelchair. But together with family and friends that I love and trust, it seems manageable and at times even exhilarating. In the end though, regardless of whether I walk perfectly, or if I walk with one crutch or two, or if I use the aid of a wheelchair or a power scooter, I know that I will always love and be loved. I will be worthwhile, and I will matter. And those realizations and beliefs will always be the greatest tools for life, no matter what anyone has to say. Thank you.